So the mother and daughter was talking, and between that, mother asked to daughter why she's complaining about her life, and where she wants to go. So Doris replied that she wants to supposed to go out for dinner with Charlie Spencer. So Mrs. Pearson previously wants to guide her child that it is not a good person, but but she was very much she thought that I will hurt my daughter, so that is why she is not talking to her. But now she gets further annoyed. She tell to her that go. She asked Doris on what occasion she is going out with the Charlie Spencer every time. So she gets further annoyed and tells her that the Charlies asked her to out for and she wants to go. She irritably asks Mrs. Pearson if she objects to that too. If yes, she might as well spite it out. Doris doesn't understand what has gotten into her mother as she has been acting weirdly. Mrs. Pearson asked her to very seriously if she could find anyone better than Charlie Spencer. She thinks she doesn't look that nice and also not very intelligent. She tries to defend Charlie Spencer. Doris tried to defend Charlie Spencer. Mrs. Pearson's bragged that she wouldn't have done better job at finding a good boy, someone who must have been better than Charlie Spencer's. Had she failed at doing so, she would have given up finding anyone, declaring that she is bad at that. Almost crying, Doris was crying for all that thing because her mother is not doing anything for her, not making her dress press, and even she said that Charlie Spencer is not a good boyfriend of her. So she was just annoyed on her mother and she cried and she went away from there. So the Doris was just almost crying, and in between that, Cyril, the Mrs. Pearson's son, was just came there, and Mrs. Pearson tells him that he's also asking for the tea. So she said that tea is not ready, and which annoys him, and thus he moved towards the table, asking her the reason behind of a tea being not made by her. So Mrs. Pearson tells him that is a very relaxed way that she doesn't bother making tea for him. Cyril, out of concern, asks if all is good with her. Being all chilled out, she conveys that she is feeling her best. On hearing her reply, he turns argumentative uh, and asks her to explain why she is not make the tea for all of them. Mrs. And he tells her to stop resting and making a tea for him and the commanding tone. He tells her that he is in hurry like usually he was doing. So Cyril is about to leave and Mrs. Pearson stop him and says that he might be in a hurry, but she is in the relaxed because she has a plenty of time. Cyril, being a spoiled child, replies that he is a sort of time and it is going to be long night. He asks Mrs. Pearson if all the things were ready, then I will be here. And but Mrs. Pearson was in a very chill mood because she doesn't want to make the things massive. She just said that no, I'm not making tea. I'm in any attempt to raise the objection, Cyril moves towards and Mrs. Pearson and reminds her that she promised him to keep them ready. Even she committed to fix them in the case they needed any repairs. Mrs. Pearson's that say that she has no change now changed her mind, and because she has realized that she doesn't like the swing or fixing of the work, all that thing she doesn't like, that is why, because she wants to realize that if you want to do your work it is good for you, and the whole night, why it is compulsory that you have to go to the whole night to out of the home. So that is the thing. Mrs. Pearson says that has now changed her mind and not doing all that thing. Mrs. Pearson clarifies that they had already talked to her in the objection tone. They do want what they want to leave and don't at home. They will being given the privilege and the situation in the office with the not to someone something. They get the union to interfere. She mentions that what has now changed in that she has started acting in the same way. She won't do what she doesn't want to. Deeply shocked by his mom's reply, he attempts to know what is the matter. Choosing not to speak a lot, he implies that things are going to change from now and on. Doris appears on the scene again because she went away from there at that time at the after crime. So she again come into the scene. Doris appears on the scene with her eyes turned red and her face white. Mrs. Pearson asks her what wrong and how would she go with the Charlie Spencer with this face. All is stemmed up. Doris tells her mom to hold her tongue about Charlie Spencer. She further adds that she is not yet ready, and the reason behind her awful look, this that she is being crying after taking Mrs. talking to the Mrs. Pearson. Cyril interprets and interrogates as what did their mother doing, what happened to her mother. So both the brother and sister, then the Mrs. Pearson leave that place, and both the brother and sister was talking together and discuss what is the matter behind her back. And Doris asked to her brother whether mom has been behaving weird with her. With him also, she has not prepared the tea and she is talking like that. So Cyril says such same thing is happened with me. What happened to our mother? Cyril tell her that even asked her if she was feeling unwell, but she said she had never felt better. She is amazed by difference in her. She tells Cyril that isn't not her words that hurt her, but the look in her eyes that made her cry. So this has happened, and after some time, Mr. Pearson appears in the scene.